Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Today I want to talk all about how to create a more organized and efficient kitchen. Most of us spend a lot of time in our kitchens, and it can easily be a place that can lack efficiency or get kind of messy easily. And I want to talk about some of the ways that we can make the space more functional and just enjoyable to be in, to cook in, to prep food in, to spend our time in, which we do spend a lot of time in our kitchens usually. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do this, that we can make our kitchens more functional and just a much more enjoyable space to spend time in. And so that's what I want to talk all about today. Let's dive right in. Here are some of my best ways to create an organized and efficient kitchen. Number one is to avoid too many countertop appliances so that we can have as much kind of clear, free space on the countertops as possible. Sometimes we can really pile things up on the counters or just put lots of knickknacks there, whatever, or we feel like there's an empty space, so it's the perfect spot to put something. Or sometimes we just have things on the counter that we really aren't making use of. So clearing the counter space as much as we can. Of course, it's good to have some essentials on the countertop, which I'll talk about in a moment, but just trying to make sure that you're not cluttering it up with too many things, knickknacks, appliances, various tools will make a big difference in helping the space to feel a little tidier, but also helping with when you're prepping food so that you have as much space as possible. Number two is to reduce excess tools. So this goes for, things on the countertop, but also things in your drawers, in your cupboards, kind of going through the items that we have collected over time in our kitchen, tools, appliances, etc. And perhaps ones that we just don't use, that we literally never use, or we haven't used in years, or we only, have used once or twice. Going through these things and kind of clearing them out, things that you know that you really don't need, again, to help to free up space in your cupboards or in your drawers, can make a really big difference with also helping you to organize those storage spaces better because they're not full of tons of stuff that you're not using. Number three, when it comes to organizing your kitchen spaces like drawers, cupboards, even your pantry, do your best to store like with like. And I think that this is something that we all try to do generally. We know, certain spaces are for certain things, but things get messy really easily, especially in the pantry and in different drawers. Things get all mashed together somehow over time. It just can become a disaster. So take the time to kind of organize different spots in your kitchen by storing like with like. So for example, you might have a designated drawer that is just for baking tools, just for things related to baking, or you might have a specific spot just for like your knives or things for prepping food, or just a spot for where you have your cutting boards. Actually, we keep all of our cutting boards right here. Same with your pantry too, keeping your oils together, your vinegars together, or putting together the grains that you have or the pastas that you have, keeping them kind of in their own little category really helps big time with organization. Can help to save you time in the kitchen too, because you know exactly where you can find things. It also frees up space too, because you are giving things a proper spot instead of it kind of just being in various places. This is also a great way to help you to better know which items need to be replenished, because things aren't getting lost at the back of different places because they have a specific spot. Number four is to keep what you use most accessible to you. So this is where having some actual essentials on your countertop, for example, can totally come in handy. So here are some things that I personally do. Right beside my stove, I have a little container where I keep all of my wooden spoons and stirring spoons, and I have a whisk in there, things that I'm constantly grabbing throughout the day when I am cooking something. It's right there. It is super accessible. Another thing that I did was actually just the other day, I moved all of our spices and seasonings, which were in this cupboard right here. over there, right beside the stove. There's a cupboard that we have right beside the stove where we previously had our glasses and mugs, but I put all of our spices there, and even just that little change has made such a difference in making it a lot easier and faster for me to grab what I need when I'm cooking, because it's right there. It's very accessible, as opposed to having to constantly walk across the kitchen several times while I'm cooking to grab what I need. So little changes like that can make a big difference. Something else that might be helpful for you is, maybe keeping a bottle of olive oil really close to your stove if it's something that you find you're grabbing often. Something else that I did, which I'm very excited about, I got a little salt cellar. It's basically just a little ceramic container where I keep my salt in, so that, again, I keep it right near my stove so that it's just something I can really quickly grab when I'm cooking. Adding my salt and pepper to foods, which is something that I find I use quite often, seasoning with salt and pepper, and so having a handy little jar right there that I can grab super easily, just game changer. Next is to do a weekly fridge clean out. I know very well that things don't often get cleared out as often as maybe they should be in the fridge. I'm guilty of this. And something though that can be really helpful is to try to make a note of actually doing it weekly. So something that my husband and I like to try to do is each weekend before we head out to the grocery store to do our weekly grocery shop, we will take a few minutes to just go through the fridge and clear out anything that's in there that's gone bad, leftovers that we didn't end up using up, etc. And kind of clearing them out of the fridge so that when we head to the grocery store and come home to unload everything, we're not jamming fresh food in with a whole bunch of old food. We've already cleared out the fridge, and I feel like that's a good time to do it, is before you go grocery shopping, because it's kind of a good way to remind yourself, like, this is the day we do it. We try to do it once a week, and that can be really helpful. And again, this is gonna help to make your experience in the kitchen just more pleasant when you are, in the fridge, you're grabbing things and it's not just full of old food that is taking up space. That's another thing too, is when we aren't clearing out our fridge all that often, it takes up so much space when we have lots of things jammed in there that need to be cleared out. Number 6 is to get into the habit of tidying up the kitchen at the end of the day, at the end of each day if possible. This is something that we definitely do every single day in the evening, after dinner or before we go to bed. We just make sure that the kitchen is cleaned up. We either put the dishwasher on, or we do up some dishes, or we put dishes away. We clear the counter, we wipe down the counters. We just make sure that the kitchen is nice and clean for when we wake up in the morning and for when we're going to be using it next. It is such a good feeling when you can come downstairs or come into your kitchen once you've gotten up in the morning and it's a clean, clear space that is ready to be used for that day, as opposed to kind of entering the kitchen and there's a sink full of dishes and it's just not tidy and clean. And so doing like a big thorough cleanup at the end of the day before you go to bed is a great time to do that and a great habit to get into. Next is to use a scrap bowl or have your compost bin handy on the counter when you are preparing food, when you're cooking. If you haven't yet been doing this, or if you've never done this before, you gotta get on it. You really do, because it just makes such a difference in helping to keep your kind of counter space somewhat more tidy while you're preparing food, as opposed to chopping up vegetables and you have little odds and ends kind of flung everywhere and they're just kind of creating a bit of a cluttered mess when you're cooking. When you have either a little scrap bowl, or what I like to do is I'll just have my compost bin out when I'm cooking. We can just, it's really easy to toss in the ends that I don't need, the bits that I'm not gonna be using of the vegetable, etc. Plop it in the compost bin, and it just helps to sort of keep things a little bit tidier as I am cooking. My next tip is to clean up as you go. As you are actually preparing food and cooking, when you're in the middle of it, putting things away when you're done with them. So if you are done with the olive oil, put it back in the cupboard. If you are done with a certain bag of veggies, put them back in the fridge. a certain jar of spice, whatever it is, even if there's a certain bowl or utensil that you are using to stir something and you're done with it, put it in the sink, whatever you need to do. This is a really great way to help to keep your space more tidy, really, when you are actually preparing food. I definitely, I've done this many times where we are preparing food and there's just things all over the countertop. All the ingredients are still out and I don't even need half of them anymore, but it really makes a difference, and just also it quickens the tidy up process when you are completely done cooking, because a lot of the things have already been put away. Next is to sharpen knives often. This is so key. It's one that I often forget about, but using sharp knives when you are cooking is something that makes the world of a difference when it comes to how easily you can prepare foods. You can slice into, veggies, how quickly you're able to do so, and it really makes life so much easier. It makes cooking become a much more efficient process when your knives are sharp. If you've ever, I'm sure you have, if you've ever cut something with a very dull knife and it's like it's not even fun. It takes longer, it's like annoying to cut through. Specifically bell peppers. Like, why is it that bell peppers are so hard to cut with a dull knife? It's like goes through the flesh, but then the skin is just like, doesn't want to. Anyway, so you can use a couple different things. There's a honing steel that you can use, which is pretty common. They're pretty inexpensive. It's just like a long rod that you can use to sharpen your knives. You can also use a whetstone. I actually have one of these. I got it as a gift for, I think, Christmas a couple of years ago, but it does take some getting used to. But I will leave some videos below on some of the best ways to sharpen knives. Next is to sort through your food storage containers. We all know what it's like to open up your cupboard or your drawer where you keep your, oh, it was a train, where you keep your containers and lids. And it's just a complete disaster. There's, mismatching lids, you can't find the right lid. This, container doesn't even have this that goes with it, or like they're just all messy and disorganized. Go through this cupboard, because a lot of the times we are using food storage containers pretty frequently. Like, we use them daily after we've cooked something, dinner, lunch, whatever. If I'm preparing something and I want to put it away into the fridge, we definitely make use of these containers all the time. So go through this spot of yours in your kitchen and just organize them a little bit. Make sure that you have the appropriate lids that match the right containers. The way that I like to do it is I separate them. I have all of our containers on the one spot of the cupboard and then all of the lids on the other side. And I just like to keep them really nice and organized that way. And I just make sure that they all have a matching component. I personally prefer glass food storage containers over plastic for the most part. I just find them a little bit more versatile, safer to eat from in terms of reheating. I also find that sometimes I'll even use them like in the oven to cook something in, so they can be pretty versatile. Speaking of food storage containers, I highly recommend investing in an assortment of mason jars in different sizes, large, small, little wee ones, medium-sized ones. And the reason for that is just because of how versatile this type of container is. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have mason jars somewhere in your kitchen or in your house, but you can use them for so many different things, even outside of the kitchen. But within the context of the kitchen, they are great for leftovers, of course, but they're also great for taking things on the go, because you can just toss a lid on. Maybe that's a smoothie. Also great for storing like salad dressings. I use them all the time. If I make a homemade salad dressing, I can shake it up in there and it's done. Great for even in your pantry, storing different dried goods in them and organizing things. So they're really, really versatile. Having them in different sizes, great thing to do, really, really handy. Next is to keep a running grocery list handy somewhere in your kitchen. This could be a small piece of paper that you have posted on your fridge, or like a little notepad that you have posted on your fridge. We have a little magnetic one. Or it could be maybe you have a chalkboard, or maybe you just want to keep this on your phone. But really, the idea here is that anytime you are out of something, maybe you're out of olive oil, you're out of salt, whatever it is, or even other household items, but when you're out of something, writing it down immediately, if possible, so that you don't forget it when you are heading out to do some shopping next. That's really the purpose of it. I find it really, really helpful. I always make up a grocery list each weekend for, for our grocery shopping, but you can always take that little running list that you have made and add it to your bigger list before you head out to the store, and that way you'll make sure that you properly stock up on the things that you know that you need. And lastly is to meal plan. If you haven't yet done this, this is definitely something that I do. I have a whole course on meal planning and getting started with that, the meal planning mini course. I'll leave it linked below. But specifically keeping that kind of meal plan for the week handy and visible in your kitchen. This is really helpful, especially when it comes to being efficient in the kitchen and making cooking so much easier, because you know exactly what it is that you have planned for the week in terms of meals, and you have the ingredients on hand for those things. It is so not my favorite thing and a little overwhelming when it's like midweek and you don't know what you have planned for dinner, you have no idea, you don't even necessarily have the right ingredients on hand, and you're just kind of trying to come up with something on the fly. Like, that's kind of stressful, especially if you've had a long day at work. You don't always want to be dealing with what to cook when it's 6:30 and you don't even know. So having that meal plan so that you know what options you have for cooking for the week, you've already stocked up on all the ingredients for the week, so you're ready to go, and then having that handy, keeping it in a visible spot so that you can refer to it throughout the week and you can see, okay, what are the things I'm gonna be cooking tonight or, this week. So that is it for today's video, how to create an organized and efficient kitchen. These are some of my best tips, things that I personally do that help me out big time, help me to enjoy my experience in the kitchen. I hope that you find these tips helpful as well. But I'd love to hear from you. What tips do you have that you personally find help you to have a more organized or efficient or functional kitchen space? Let me know in the comments below. Is there anything that I missed? Anything that you would add to this list? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one.